Joining me at this time from Washington, D.C. is the publisher and the editor of White House Dossier, Keith Koffler. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick.
Keith, you wrote an article recently, something that I think our viewers should know about. In fact, you wrote it today, called the Obama Manifesto. I find it very eye-opening. I find it very accurate, and I think it's important to share with the viewers of America what it is that you call the Obama Manifesto. You say it targets businesses and political opponents. Let's talk about that.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I think it's a very important thing that does get overlooked by the mainstream press. They're not really picking up on it. A couple of other places have. But, you know, President Obama did something very strange just yesterday in Los Angeles in what was billed as an economic piece. He basically villainized, and there's really no other way to characterize it, in sort of a McCarthyite manner, his opponents and corporations. I mean, with respect to corporations, he criticized them for basically doing something that businesses have done always. They're trying to take advantage of legal corporate loopholes that exist in the tax code, and in this case, they're going overseas. They're locating their headquarters overseas to avoid what actually are very high U.S. corporate taxes. And in Europe, actually, amazingly enough, the corporate taxes are lower.
That is amazing.
You know,
like
what
you
they're doing is just isn't it incredible that, that over there, that's where a tax haven in semi-socialist Europe. But what he's doing is he's calling them deserters for going over there and doing this. Perfectly legal. Think of that term. I mean, what a loaded term, deserters. It really sounds like traitors and so forth. You know, this is an amazing sort of message for a president to convey to the American people, and really it's something that he could have done something about by acting to close corporate loopholes, do tax reform. It's something that he really has not bothered to do as president. So instead, he wants to take this on the campaign trail and villainize corporations, large corporations, in the most insidious manner. I mean, it appeals to xenophobia. It appeals to, you know, rich versus poor, very divisive thing. And the other thing that he did in that speech is he revived this notion, which is really, you know, the type of rhetoric that I don't think I've ever heard from a president, economic patriotism. So what is economic patriotism, according to Barack Obama? As far as I can tell, the only thing it means is agreeing with Obama on his various policies. His policies are intended to help the American people, so therefore, it's patriotism. And of course, the implication of that is that if you do not support economic patriotism, you are not patriotic. And that means his entire opposition, Republicans. I think people really need to pay attention to this, to the way this president is framing things. He's not just a political actor. He is president of all of us. And he's really using the most divisive and really, I think in some ways, McCarthyite terminology to characterize his opposition as not being American and as being traitors in a way. And it's a very dangerous thing for a president to be doing.
It is dangerous. And as you point out in your article, and as we all know, he has 2.5 years left on his term. One school of thought would be, well, he's somewhat of a lame duck president. Another school of thought is, wait, he has 2.5 years to impose his ideological will on the nation. Why do you, and you allude to the fact, you imply that this 2.5 years could be a dangerous time given his current actions. Why do you feel that way?
Well, I think if you look at the way he's phrasing things and you put it in the context of what he's doing, he's increasingly resorting to executive actions, which are in some cases of dubious constitutionality. They certainly don't involve Congress. So you have a president who's trying to accumulate more and more power for himself, and then he's vilifying people as basically anti-American while he's doing that. And, you know, the other thing that occurs to me, I mean, I really don't think some conservatives will tell you that he's trying to sort of take over and really, you know, potentially establish some kind of martial law. Or you hear all kinds of crazy things. I don't think he's doing that, but he is accumulating a lot of power. The one thing I worry about, though, if there's a crisis of some type, if there's some, God forbid, some kind of terrorist attack or some kind of economic crisis, a president who is accumulating this amount of power and describing his opponents in this way, what is he actually capable of? What does he think he needs to do to enact his agenda, to do the things he wants, and shunt aside what he views as clearly enemies in some ways, enemies of the state?
Now, it's a good point. Let me ask you this, coming back to the talk about corporations, talking about them in such a hateful, negative light. Could this at all backfire against Democrats? He's trying to. He's trying to rally the base, I assume, for Democrats in November, trying to get his ideological views out there. Could this not backfire from Democrats from the standpoint of those in corporate America who may currently be supporting the Democratic Party? For example, Silicon Valley has been a big supporter of Barack Obama. We're now hearing reports that that's starting to crack. That's starting to change as they see increased regulation, increased taxes on their operations. They're starting to look at other alternatives going forward. Could this not backfire?
I think that's a good question. And these people out in Silicon Valley, they may come to work in sandals and without ties and jackets and so forth, but they are also corporate America, and they are also looking to respond to their shareholders and make money. And this kind of rhetoric could start to make them wonder what they're dealing with here with Barack Obama. And, on the other hand, I think, with the economy kind of been limping along for so long that a lot of average voters are not really so concerned with corporation bashing at this point. They want to know what you're going to do to stimulate the economy and keep things rolling. So, I think there are probably a couple of ways in which this could backfire.
I hope you are accurate about saying that people are not concerned about corporation bashing. They shouldn't be, particularly when jobs are and the economy is so poor. My concern is that it's a distraction to those to those off the economy. All right, Keith Koffler, important story. I thank you for sharing it with our audience. Up next, my